There's a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
Missing one frightened little girl. Name Bettina Miller. Description 6 years of age, average height and build. Light brown hair, quite pretty. Last seen being tucked in bed by her mother a few hours ago. Last heard, aye, there's the rub, as Hamlet put it. For Bettina Miller can be heard quite clearly, despite the rather curious fact that she can't be seen at all. Present location? Let's say for the moment, in the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema podcast, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo.
And I'm your co-host, 80Z.
80s. We have finally reached episode number 91 overall of the Twilight Zone. A Little Girl Lost.
Oh, my goodness.
And what episode did you actually come on? Was it episode 2? I know you weren't on the first episode, at least.
No, I don't think I was on the first couple of episodes, actually.
That's a good trivia for next
time.
We'll
get that next time, because I just remember redoing the episode over and over and over because we were a little
Perchance to Dream. Remember that one?
That's the one I came in.
Was that the first one?
Yeah, that was. We recorded from my house. So we remotely. We had a few struggles in trying to work those kinks out.
I never want to watch that episode ever again.
Yeah, well, for a lot of reasons. Mainly because our quality of our podcast was not great back then. Hopefully we've gotten a little better and learned a little more as we've gone along, but let's talk about the episode at hand, and it's entitled Little Girl Lost. It's the Twilight Zone season number 3, episode number 26 in season 3, and 91 overall if you're keeping count at home. This one comes in with an IMDb rating of 8.0.
You've got to be kidding
Jimbo
me.
says it's high. I say
high.
It's right on target for me, but
here we go.
The episode was first broadcast on March the 16th, 1962. It was directed by Paul Stewart, and it was written by Richard Matheson. Interesting note that the short story was written by Richard Matheson. This was like a story out of his own life, and I think we have that in the trivia.
Yep.
But again, it was first rolled out March 16th, 1962, and you already know what time it is. You know, we love this segment in our episode. It's the segment we like to call On This Day in History. Okay. March 16th, 1962. Let's go way back to March 16th, 1934. Let's go back several decades. The Academy Award statuette is first called an Oscar in print by Sidney Sklosky. So that's an interesting note. A movie, well, of course, we're going to cover a little movies, a little sports, maybe a little music, 3 main categories. So the Oscar, the award, it was dubbed back on March 16th, 1934 in some kind of print publication. So let's deep dive a little bit where the origins come from. All right. So the origin for the nickname is kind of in question. The name Oscar for the Academy Award is a bit of a mystery, and here are a few competing stories about how it came to be. The first one is Margaret Herrick's comment. The most widely accepted story is that Margaret Herrick, a librarian for the Academy, later called its executive director, said that the statue looked like her uncle Oscar when she first saw it in the 1930s. Reporters picked up on that comment, and the name stuck. So that's one explanation. Number 2 is that actor Betty Davis claimed that she named the award after her first husband, Harmon Oscar Nelson, because the backside of the statue reminded Her of him.
The backside.
So I don't know. Backside, meaning okay. I won't touch
They have
that.
the golden backside. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the golden backside. Number 3, Hollywood columnist Sid Schlosky also claimed he took credit, saying that he used the name Oscar in his 1934 column as a casual nickname to make the award sound less pretentious. So there you go. You take your pick. Dealer's choice. Which story do you think is true? I don't have much by way of trivia other than that Oscar trivia. Let's talk about a couple famous birthdays, though, on this day. So for March the 16th, 1926, American comedian of Martin and Lewis, the MDA Telethon, won very own Jerry Lewis. He was born in Newark, New Jersey on March the 16th, 1926, and passed away in 2017.
Did you like the old Jerry Lewis movies there?
I wasn't a big fan of Jerry Lewis, to be honest with you. I'm not really familiar with the Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, Martin and Lewis combo. But I did hear a clip of him not too long ago where I guess he went to Dean Martin and they put a capper on it. After an 11-year run, I guess they could have kept doing it, but there might have been some tension maybe between Dean and Jerry because Jerry was a lot more famous than Dean, and Dean was a talented singer, obviously an actor in his own right. But, Jerry had kind of edged him out in popularity and fame. And in order to sort of salvage the relationship, they decided that they were going to do their last show on this day, and they sort of,
went their separate
a hard
ways.
stop on it. Yeah.
Yeah, but he did do a lot of great work for the MDS or whatever.
He did. You remember the firemen at the stoplights?
Oh yeah, with the big
over
boots?
Labor Day weekend, and you put the money in the fireman's boot. Yeah.
Did you ever put money in the boot?
I did.
Well, that's amazing since you're a tightwad.
My dad did. I was a kid. My dad put the money in.
Oh, you didn't roll down your window and
no, but I sat in the
money
back seat.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was. Takes you back. So another famous birthday. We just have 2. So on March the 16th, 1955, American rapper Flavor Flav of Public Enemy was born. 1959. He was also a reality TV star.
You got a little too excited.
And the
there.
surreal life.
It's not like it's MC Hammer or anything.
Yeah, right. I know. It's only Flavor Flav. Big Clock, Flavor Flav. He was born in Roosevelt, Long Island, New York. So one Flavor Flav, March 16th, 1959. Back to our episode at hand. Let's talk about some dollars and cents. So the total production cost of this episode is right on the money at $50,035.34. 50 grand on the button. And by the way, let me just insert in here, the cinematography for this episode was cutting edge. For the time, it was outstanding.
It's terrible.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're gonna have a long episode then.
Yeah, we are, because hopefully you don't have seizures, kids, because you're definitely gonna have one.
Boy. All right, so let's talk about dates of rehearsal. There are 2 of them, January 29th and 30th of 1962. Dates of filming are 3, January 31st, February 1st, and February 2nd of 1962. I don't have any trivia as far as... I know that this episode was filmed out of order. It was done more like a movie. Because I do remember, I think it is in the trivia, I may be repeating myself, but they had to... the lines on the wall in the episode where the portal was... They had to erase those and put the bed back into place so that Rod could do his introduction. And so they had to, I remember a little trivia about that. Jimbo, let's hear about this very short cast on this episode that I know that you love so well.
So much. Just so much. Probably be in my top 10 list at the end of the year.
I take great delight that you hate this episode.
I know. You just wait. It's going to be buried long and forgotten. But so we had Sarah Marshall, who played Ruth Miller. Ruth Miller is the wife in this episode, and can I just say she is over the top?
That's what I was going to ask you. You think she's overacting?
You know what? You remember that scene in Airplane where they go and they start shaking that lady and slapping her over and over and over, even the rabbi slapping her? That's what I wanted to do to this lady. Not that I would, but that's how annoying she is
harsh,
in this movie.
Man.
It's reality check. But Richard Matheson, this is based on a story from, which we'll talk about here in a minute.
Correct.
But he named the character Ruth
after his wife.
It's his wife's name. I don't know if there's any subtle little hints in there that this is how his wife is, but I'm just saying if it's based on his true life story, possibility could be there. Then you had Robert Sampson. I'm kind of wonder why he didn't name it Richard Miller, but he played Chris Miller if it's going off, his real life.
Oh, right.
So he played the dad, Chris Miller, in this. Again, he was just he's kind of weird in this too because, let's go look under the foundation of the house, stuff like that. Then you had Charles Aidman. He played Bill. You might remember him from And When the Sky Was Opened, another Twilight Zone episode we had covered. He was probably the best one of the episode. If I had to give a high point, he's probably the best one, the physicist or whatever he was. You had Tracy Stratford playing Tina Miller. Now, notice I said playing Tina Miller because she did not do any of the voice, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah, I kind of had a...
Oh, I got something. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of bad.
So she, again, Richard Matheson named it after his own daughter. And I might as well throw this in here. So this was based off of a story where Richard Matheson went in one day. He heard his daughter crying. And they said it's really weird because it was only like an army cot she was sleeping on. The apartment was pretty small, but she had fallen off the bed and rolled to the wall. And when he reached under the bed, he couldn't feel her.
Yeah.
So that's where he got this episode from. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, good inspiration.
But he named Tina after his daughter. So, and then you have Rhoda Williams who did Tina's voice. And Eric, this
is where I needed to put this.
Yeah, this is where you needed to put this because she was 32 years old and it sounded like a 32-year-old woman trying to portray a woman's voice. And it was so cringeworthy.
Yeah,
it wasn't funny.
Bad.
But you might recognize her voice. She was in the Disney's animation classic Cinderella, where she played Drizella, one of the stepsisters.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
Of course, then you have Rod Serling. But yeah, there's your cast and a want for that.
No.
What do you mean want? You gave me 2 wants already.
Well, the Rhoda Williams.
Why did they not give the girl her own voice?
I don't know. That was a big time misstep in my opinion too. Yeah, it loses points for that.
Oh, it lost a lot of points.
Well, not the whole episode.
Did it lose points for the wife being annoying?
That's a criticism. We'll get there, man. We're never going to get done if we can't even get out off the block with the cast.
You made me do the cast.
Let's go to the plot. When he hears his young daughter Tina calling out to him in the night, Chris Miller goes to her room, but finds she isn't there. At first, he thinks that she has fallen off the bed or slid herself under it, but despite hearing her call out, she's nowhere to be seen.
Mommy?
He gets help from a friend, Bill, who concludes that Tina has slid through a portal into another dimension. They find the portal opening, but Tina is lost inside, and Chris goes in after her. And that was by Gary MCD on IMDb, his plot summary. Let's talk about an outline. There's a 3-act outline for this Twilight Zone. The first act is the disappearance, the second act is the discovery, and the third act is the rescue and aftermath. So let's start in the first act for the disappearance. It's late at night. This is kind of a repeat. Tina's young cries wake up her parents, Chris and Ruth. Chris searches but finds her bed empty. Though he can still hear her voice nearby, the dog, Mac, also acts strangely. The parents realize something impossible. Tina seems to be missing from the physical world, even though they can hear her cries. The
dog might have been the best part of this episode.
Mac, go get her, Mac. The mystery sets in and the tension rises. They can't figure out what's happening. So I know you're not going to give me much input because you don't like this episode, but
I've got plenty of input.
Okay, well,
you may not want it.
Talk about these first opening scenes. It's a typical night. Parents are asleep. Child wakes up with nightmares. We've all experienced. We're parents.
Right. I was getting ready to ask you that. Did you ever have a child that like one of my kids was afraid of the dark? He wanted to have his closet light left on. Sure. I don't know if it was Monsters Inc. he watched, but I mean, man, those days, I'm glad those are over because there were some long nights.
Rough nights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can't, nothing sticks out in particular. I'm sure there were, it wasn't necessarily a nightmare, but one time my daughter was in middle school. She'd come home from a middle school trip to Chicago, and she'd eaten a bunch of Chicago's pizza. if you will, up, and she came home. We picked her up from the school around midnight. They got home from a field trip. Comes home, lays down for an hour, and then just barfs all over the floor. It was the nastiest smelling. To this day, I get shudders. I had to clean it up.
I got one better. When we were growing up, my sister.
Oh, you're going to tell on her after what she did to you yesterday.
Oh, yeah. She posted that picture, so it's fair game now. But I remember I had popcorn, and I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden I hear that, you know the sound, and you go out in the hallway from her bedroom all the way down there is chunks of popcorn laying on the floor all the way to the bathroom. It's everywhere. So, man, and there's just something about the smell of vomit, that vile stench.
It's not good. It's, it was pretty bad. So Becca had a case of the popcorn pukes. Huh? I hate to hear that. All right. I don't have a whole lot about the disappearance. Where can we pick up here in our episode? We're kind of trucking quite along here. We've kind of summarized the first act. I think Rod's revelation and monologue is kind of cool. The camera pans down by his feet under the bed, and then it pans up towards him, and he gives his monologue, and he gives a description about Tina, the daughter here. And just one thing, just while I'm thinking of it off the top of my head, and we'll get to it in act number 2 in the discovery. Chris decides to call his friend Bill, who is a physicist. Your first thought as a parent isn't to call the police.
Exactly.
It isn't to keep hunting in the apartment, or, I guess, hey, let me call my friend Bill, who's a physicist. And I understand why he has to come into play here, because a lot of the dialogue is, no, Chris, Ruth, no. Like, there's not a lot. So Bill comes in and he has to paint the picture, right, of what's happening. So his dialogue is kind of heavy. So good on Charles Aidman as Bill, because he really has to paint the picture of what's actually happening from a scientific point of view, if you will. So he comes in for help. And again, just to reiterate, that's interesting that's Chris's first instinct. And, Chris says, Bill's coming over. And she says, honey? Ruth says, honey? Bill? Well, he's a physicist. Maybe he can help us out. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. So Chris punts very early. He's like, I just had to call Bill because I don't know what to do. So,
I wonder if Bill even has any kids. But he's a physicist.
Just some random neighbor or something.
Doesn't even have a last name. It's just Bill in the cast. Bill.
No. That was a little odd. So Bill examines Tina's room, in Act 2, and he uncovers the invisible portal that we've talked about in the wall, in this rift into another dimension. And Bill says, if it's what I think, it's kind of a gap, an opening to another dimension, probably the 4th dimension. It just shouldn't be, it's not laid out like our world, he says.
Can I just say, I don't know if we got to it yet, but where he's like, put the books here and put the books here because this is where her feet should be. And they move the bed and they're filling around trying to see if she's there, like invisible. Remember?
Yeah, right.
And he's like, whoa, what's there? We got to cover every inch of this. Like, don't step on her.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, Eric. Can you like this episode?
Well, I thought it was an episode that lends to greater things cinematically, and we'll get to that in a minute. So right now, Chris is on the phone with Bill. The dog is barking his head off. It's going nuts. Mac is outside the sliding glass door. So in frustration, Chris lets the dog in, and then the dog immediately runs under the bed and vanishes into the portal. And Bill explains the situation with his scientific theories. We already talked about that. He's explaining that this is some kind of 4th dimension, and that the dog has also vanished into this dimension. And Chris ultimately decides to risk everything here in the 2nd act, and he enters that dimension to try to rescue Tina and Mac. With more overacting by
his wife,
Ruth, the mom. Yeah, I don't know. I can't be too critical. How would you respond in a situation like that? Like, you're going to be just beside yourself. What's Tina? Probably like 4 or 5 years old, maybe? Right in this episode, she's probably like 4 or 5. Can you imagine one of your kids disappearing in your own house being 4 or 5. Here's the part where you talked about they sort of lay the books out where the bed would be. Yeah, and he's crouching down. He's sort of the karate move.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah. But he's trying to get a feel. Bill's trying to get a feel of where this portal might be. So we'll skip on. We'll do Jimbo a favor. Now, I thought this we'll get to it in the wall action and how they did the illusion of the false
That was
walls.
pretty cool, like when he put his hand through.
It was kind of cool. You got to give him that.
I gave it to him.
Let's move on to the rescue and the aftermath. Inside this surreal, distorted other dimension, which Jimbo hates. It's like a fisheye camera lens, right?
So it's what they used when we landed on the moon?
I mean,
if we landed on the moon?
Who knows what they used when we, quote unquote, landed on the moon?
Eric, do you think we landed on the moon?
So skeptical.
Yes or no?
Let's not talk about that.
Oh, well.
I used to think it was 100% done deal,
Like we did?
We did.
Oh, now it's not so.
No, it's not so 100% these days.
Wow.
I have my questions. And yeah, so maybe we'll save that for another podcast. So, getting back to our episode, Chris really, I mean, there's not a lot of action here. A lot of the end of the episode is Chris struggling to find Tina, which can somewhat be laborious. Like he's just calling out to her, "Come on, Mac, bring her to me," and all that. That does sort of gets a little long in the tooth.
I watched this twice last night because I want to make sure that all my feelings were on point. But as I was sitting there watching it in high definition, and it's twirling, I'm getting dizzy. I mean, I have bad ear problems anyway. So do you. But I'll save it for the end because I can't get going right now.
Okay, all right.
We won't make it through.
All right, let's get through it. So Bill and Ruth are on one side of the portal. Of course, Chris is inside the fourth dimension, and he's trying desperately to get Tina back to him so he can physically grab her and get her out of the fourth dimension. He tries to use the dog. The dog is, listening to the sound of Chris's voice. And again, there's a lot of topsy-turvy and a lot of camera work there where it can be dizzying. So Tina and Mac safely get through. Bill reveals to Chris that he was almost severed in two because the portal was nearly shut, underscoring the dangerous unknowns they faced. And the family reunited, but the lingering mystery of the fourth dimension remains unsolved. And so we kind of close down the episode with there's no real resolution. Could this happen again? Could this happen? What is this? We don't really know. There's been a lot of sci-fi, movies dealing with like fourth dimension. Interstellar comes to mind.
Poltergeist.
Well, that's in my notes.
One.
That's this episode is the inspiration for Poltergeist. And I've got an admission to make about Poltergeist. I was so scared of Poltergeist as a kid. I still haven't seen it to this day.
Ever?
Because they're back. That trailer or that whatever it was that I saw as a kid, it scared me to death. That American Werewolf in London and that movie scared me to death. And I've only seen bits and pieces of it. And it's scared me so much as a kid. I'm
going to have to message your daughter and tell her to make you watch it tonight with her.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully I can make it through. Any comments on the episode? Or you want to wait and wrap it up?
Well,
wrap up comments.
Let me throw this out.
Anything
Let me
specific?
throw this out right now. So we have this out of the way.
Okay.
The dad, what was his name? Chris. Bill's yelling at him to, hey, have her grab the collar of the dog. Right. And now in the whole dizzy and information, the spinning of the episode and all that, you see a scene where the dog is kind of got a hold of her skirt and pulling it.
Yeah.
That's after she's supposed to have hold of the collar.
Right,
But then
I
a
noticed
little bit
that too.
later, she has the collar when she's walking to
She's 5 years old.
Right. The other thing I have, so this portal opens, right? And they do this chalk outline on the wall. Then all of a sudden it's going to, how can he tell it's closing? If he did this chalk outline on the wall, by the time the guy went in, it should have been closing at a certain speed, a rate of speed, right? That's not explored because
we don't know how the other world works.
No, but what I'm saying is the guy said, hey, we seen you in there. Oh, look, we had to get you out of here because this was closing.
Oh, I see. So how do you know? How does he know what speed it's closing?
It's closing.
Okay, I got it.
That's a, because then your chalk outline gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It didn't show that to me. He just did the one chalk outline, and it was, hey, this is the portal right here, the door to the portal.
Okay.
So that was an issue I had.
Okay.
Because you don't know, hey, how did he know you only had a few seconds left?
Fair enough. Okay.
He is a physicist, but I don't know if that means anything.
He is a physicist.
Right.
It's
not rocket science.
Happens to be their neighbor. Which
right.
Can be handy in this episode. Let's talk about some trivia, shall we? You ready? Or were you finished?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead because
okay, you're powering up to lay the boom.
I'm like the Energizer Bunny, man. Once I get going, I just can't stop. So, it keeps going and going.
The teleplay by Richard Matheson. We already talked about that. We won't belabor that. Matheson wrote a short story based on a real life incident. We've already talked about that. We won't belabor that anymore. There was something interesting about the musician Bernard Herrmann. He is credited before the director Paul Stewart in this episode. This marks the only episode of the series in which the musician received top billing over the director. I thought that was kind of interesting. Herrmann was in Paris, France at the time, and he was approached to do the score. He first composed it in February of 1962, and then later the entire score, including the closing theme. Apparently, I guess the closing theme is a little bit different than...
So is the intro.
Okay. I didn't even take notice of that. So he did both of those things, and they were recorded in Paris on March the 6th. So he was out of the country. Now, here's a bit of confusing trivia here. I guess maybe a little confusing. The dog featured in this episode was actually named Rags. Okay, and it was used by the trainer only on the first day of filming. In the story, the dog's name was actually Mags, M-A-G-S, to ensure the dog would react when called with a name similar to its own. But the dog's name, closed caption comes up, is Mac. So it's not Mags and it's not
I thought it was
Max. It's Mac. So who knows what the dog's name is, I guess.
At least he got credited.
Right. I mean, he was brave to go in the fourth dimension. That's all we know. We don't know his name, but he went in after Tina. The role of Tina was played by Tracy Stratford. She was unbilled during the closing credits, but Rhoda Williams was supplied the voice of Tina. Young Tracy was only needed for the final day of filming, but Williams stayed off camera to supply the voice. We've already talked about that. That's one of the biggest marks on this episode was they use an adult as a voiceover for a child. That is not good. And then it goes in to how they recorded her voice and looped it over when they pieced the filming together. And I think, Jimbo, you covered this too. She was a voice actor on television shows like Father Knows Best and a lot of creations from Disneyland. Mm-hmm. So like most television programs, the scenes for this episode were not produced in sequence. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning, but they later appear as they later appeared in the finished film. Later scenes involving Bill's attempt to pull Tina out of the fourth dimension were shot before the scenes in which Ruth and Chris discover Tina isn't there. Because of this, at the end of the first day of filming, the chalk marks were removed from the wall and the bed was replaced so that Serling's entrance scene could be filmed.
Do you think that's hard as an actor to film out of order like that?
I didn't even know that they did that until I always was under the dumb impression that they filmed movies. They shot it as it went along.
I mean, because if you're filming a scene like, let's say one of your parents died before
right, emotionally get yourself.
But I guess that's acting, right?
That's acting. So they were little pencil marks, basically light pencil marks were put on the wall to mark where the portal was going to be once they reshot the scenes again. Little Girl Lost was parodied in Homer as segment of the Treehouse of Horror, an episode of the 7th season of The Simpsons. In the episode, the two-dimensional characters attempt to retrieve Homer from the third dimension. Not the fourth dimension, the third dimension. Oh, that's funny.
I hope the portal was through the fridge.
So Homer likens his entrance to the third dimension to something out of that Twilight-y show about that zone.
Not the show where the vampires sparkle.
I thought that was
Twilight.
An area of the queue for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in theme park attractions in California and Paris, that's, I think, Disney World or Disneyland, uses subtle effects to simulate air currents coming out of a solid wall, as well as playing a subtle recording of the girl's dialogue in intervals. Hopefully they use an actual child's voice for that exhibit, because hopefully not a adult woman's voice. I don't know why I had such a problem with that, but it was bad. In the exit of the Florida version of the attraction, there is an area of the wall outlined in chalk, exactly like the portal of the episode. Some, including Richard Matheson and including Jimbo as well, have noted the similarities between the episode and the 1982 film Poltergeist. Apparently that was an
You need to watch it, Eric.
I'm scared.
We're all scared, son.
Charles Aidman, Bill, would later serve as the narrator of the Twilight Zone, the 80s series, the remake in the 80s series, 1985. There were 2 seasons of that. And finally, trivia: the shots of the hand passing through the wall were done in the camera. The wall was actually in 2 pieces, and there was a gap between, and then that gap was flooded with light, so much light that it appeared that it looked like a solid wall when they passed their hand through it. There's one goof. As the cameraman pans up to Rod Serling for the opening narration, he can be seen glancing off to his left for a second to receive his cue to start talking. So it's a little goof in there. And that concludes that section. I got a couple of observations and questions.
Go ahead.
Want me to throw those at you now?
Throw them at me. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this episode is praised for its haunting visual effects and especially scenes showing the fourth dimension, which were achieved by using distorted lenses and mirrors. This gave the alternate reality and dreamlike, unsettling quality that boosted the tension and suspense without relying heavily on special effects or technology of the time. So no credit there at all that these were like revolutionary techniques, and we didn't have, computers and CGI. All right, he's giving me no emotional response.
No.
And Jimbo would say this in his observation, if he could, he would concur that emotional performances by the parents, especially Ruth, Sarah Marshall, were sometimes criticized for being a bit melodramatic, though this fits the story's portrayal of a parent in sheer panic at losing a child. Jimbo, and I have my question here, do you think the mother overreacted in this episode? I already asked you this question.
Let me look outside. Is the grass green today? Is the sun shining bright? Is the blue sky? Yes, it was way overreacting. I mean, I've misplaced my child before, and you didn't see me.
Oh, you have?
Oh, yeah.
You're a horrible parent.
Well, I wasn't going to say I locked them in the car like my wife did on one day, but I'm just saying, even in my worst sheer panic moment of all time, I don't think I ever overreacted like that.
Yeah, you kind of have to, for the sake of the group, don't you, as the dad, kind of have to be the one who remains calm?
Chris was not that
and
either,
keep
though.
it under control so that everybody else doesn't freak out.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's kind of your role as a dad. And finally, the noted connection between Steven Spielberg's, I can't speak today, Poltergeist in 1982. So we've kind of hit that already. And I've already given you my confession. Never seen it. I was really scared. These are kind of weak questions, but how is it possible for Christina and the dog to breathe inside the fourth alien dimension? You got to suspend a little reality. I think that question's kind of weak. We don't know what kind of dimension Tina fell into. Rod's final narration leaves it somewhat ambiguous whether it was the fourth, the fifth, or some other dimension, emphasizing the mystery rather than going into a hard sci-fi explanation. And that's kind of where I'll end as far as questions and observations. Jimbo,
I think the audience would like Eric to go first this time with his thoughts and feelings and ratings before Jimbo goes in.
I thought it was a good story. I think it was a good story. It might have not have been executed to your approval rating. I think the actual rating, though, I'm going to stick with what IMDb gave it. I think it's a solid 8. Is it to serve man? Is it a 9? No. I thought the story was really well written, and I like the fact that it came out of, real life and real experiences. Sometimes the best stories come out of those. Usually the best stories come out of real life experiences. You know, it's a simple cast. You know, I think the story itself drives the episode. Are the special effects dated? Of course. I mean, it's the Twilight Zone. You know, it's just like the dinosaur in Flight 33. You know, it's claymation. Like that's the era in which we're in. So going back to our previous episode, if we're going to give them a pass for the time and place on storyline for the last episode about little Jenny, then I think we got to give them a pass, you know, when it comes to special effects and cinematography, when it comes to this episode. You know, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, you know, I think of a lot, you know, sci-fi's covered. And again, I think I referenced Interstellar. That's a really good movie about falling into another dimension. It's far better executed than this one, but, you know, I like it. I think it's good. I give it an 8. Jimbo, let's hear your opinion on the matter.
All right. I'm going to start off by saying this. The script was really well written. The execution was not. Okay. The plot is so simplistic, it's underwhelming. The acting is overrated, especially the mom. I can't stress that enough. Tina's voice sounds like a 32-year-old woman trying to portray a small woman's voice, which I wish they would have gave the little child her own voice. It might have came off more realistic. The camera rotating is dizzying. I didn't realize when you were in another dimension that you're just going to be rolling around upside down. And, you know, they hear her on the ceiling, then they run into the living room. You got to find her. You know, to me, it's over the top. The little girl's assistant, Daddy, Mommy, where are you? Another thing is when the dad goes through the portal, you see his whole body go through. Okay, so how is the guy going to have his feet? A little unbelievable for me there.
Oh, you mean only half of his body?
Right.
In and out? Okay.
Yeah, because he actually went all the way in if you watch it.
Right.
And then you got the fog in the fifth dimension, you know, the fog machines going off or whatever. It's kind of, to me, it kind of looked like lazy camera work as far as the set of the other dimension. It's just a couple of lights, a door, and some fog, and a spinning camera. Whoop-de-doo, okay? And then I'll leave you with this.
So you're saying we could replicate that
right
here,
right now, right? So Eric, I'm going to leave you with this. This is my sum of the overall episode. The only thing worse than the little girl lost is the time I lost to watch this episode twice. For me, it's a 3 out of a 10.
3. Wow.
Might be one of the worst episodes of the Twilight Zone I've ever seen, and that includes the comedies.
No.
Yes.
I got to stop you there.
Well,
there's no way.
I'm just telling you. Give me Burgess Meredith as the strongest man in the world. Give me the Silent Era guy. If I was his name, it's off the tip of my tongue right now. Give me that one with he has the helmet thing that he transfers through time. Give me that one over this any day of the week.
Oh man!
But if you liked what you heard, hopefully the next episode.
Did you like Poltergeist though? The movie?
Oh yeah, Poltergeist is great.
Okay.
Even the remake was okay.
Okay.
So make sure you watch the original before you watch the remake though. But if you liked what you heard, we are the Tragedy Cinema Podcast on Facebook. If you want to leave us a review, we'll read it on the air. I'll make Eric read it or Kyle. But with that being said, I think this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
The other half, where? The fourth dimension, the fifth, perhaps. They never found the answer. Despite a battery of research physicists equipped with every device known to man, electronic and otherwise, no result was ever achieved. Except perhaps a little more respect for and uncertainty about the mechanisms of the Twilight Zone.